Superior attack!
Welcome to Superior Tech, the area that gives you all the numbers for your favorite games and goes over so many in any of these videos that oftentimes, I'm told, mathematicians cream their pants. I am Respecugnize, and this is Moira. That is how you actually say that name. She's Irish. It's Moira. Please stop slaughtering it. So Moira here.
Science will reveal the truth.
That's good information to know. Moira, let's be honest, it's a Blizzard game. Moira is effectively a shadow priest. That's what she is. So you're going to find her in support, and we're going to hark on that a little more at the end of this video when I stand on my soapbox and tell you guys how to play the character. But she is in the support. She is very interesting to me because she forces you to, I guess, use both sides of your brain, both her hands. You have to switch back and forth constantly between doing damage and healing, and I don't mean that in a critique of how you're playing, in that you need to go back and forth to be a good player. I mean literally because of the mechanics of the character, the way she was designed. You have to constantly go back and forth between healing and damage, and we're going to show that in a minute why. If you take a look at the bottom right hand corner, you will notice that we do not have a ammo counter, and we're going to get to that and why. So looking at our kit, we're going to start off with Biotic Grass, which is the suite for primary and secondary fire. Primary fire is regeneration. It is a piercing projectile beam type. It does 80 hit points per second in healing with a 16.67 per second residual heal. The projectile moves at 30 meters per second, and it has a 15 meter range. There is a 0.3 second cast time delay, so there is some frames for that healing, and it will last 9 seconds with 3 seconds residual on that, and you will have a recharge of that ability ranging somewhere between 9 and 45 seconds depending on how you use the alternate fire, and we'll get to that right now. So on our secondary or alternate fire, we have Decay. This is her DPS beam. It is a auto tracking targeting beam type. It will do 50 hit points of damage per second, and it has a bonus in that it will heal Moira here for 33 hit points per second while she's draining the life out of someone, like any good redhead woman. It has a 20 meter range, and it will not headshot because that would just be ridiculous. So we're going to go quickly. Let's go down to our hero bots, and we're going to show the healing effect. So we're going to shoot this real quick at these two, and I want you to notice two things. One, we have stopped firing, and it does give that 16.67 seconds of residual healing. That's the crosses that you see popping out of the guys. After we stop, you'll notice that the hit points on our friendly bot to the right there keep going up. Another thing is that I have the reticle in the middle of these two bots, and yet I'm still healing them using Blizzard nomenclature. That is the cleave effect, meaning that multiple boxes can be hit with an ability at the same time. So that's very useful in healing while characters are moving around. Let's see, we'll get a couple of more seconds of heal juice, as I call it in there. But you'll notice here, if we look over the right hand shoulder of that bot,
not ready.
You'll notice that that effect went over. So it is a beam, but it is not stopped by a hitbox. Let's think of it less like a beam and more like a mist or a torrent. That's probably a better way of looking at it, as a torrent that comes out of you. that allows you to heal multiple things, and that is because, and we're just going to hint on it, Moira needs to be an incredibly mobile character. So let's get rid of all our heal juice here so we can look at the second part and what it does. Okay. So
Allow
we'll
me.
go up here and looking at decay on the secondary fire. One of the great things about it is you do not have to actually be on the enemy hero when you're using it. Notice my reticle is not on either one of these bots and I'm still doing damage. Also, if you notice that my hit points went back up while I was doing that. Okay, so we're going to look at a E toggle, or we'll look at fade on left shift. Let's just go in order. It is a self-buffing movement type that allows you to be invulnerable. It lasts for 0.8 seconds, so you almost get a full second of being invulnerable. You will increase your movement by 18.75 seconds, which is very important for the second video we're going to do here, because fade is such a big part of her kit and the survivability and mobility, and there are some hacks for it using the physics engine here from Blizzard. So we're going to look at that in the second video. There is a 6-second cooldown on that, and if you notice, Moira has some pretty large cooldowns on her stuff, because if not, the character would run amok. So you simply hit shift here to initiate fade. You're going to move forward at an increased speed, and you get that really cool particle effect. There is probably a 1/4 of a second to a 1/3 of a second delay on fade. I'll have to put it on a chrono to actually get the frames for it. We're just kind of rushing this video out. But there is a slight delay on fade. A couple of weeks ago I was watching Alinity, and I think it was at least 2 times she thought that she got the fade off and should not have been killed. Sweetheart, there's actually that little window with frames in it, so it wasn't that you're going crazy. It's actually that there is a delay on it. So you guys can of course check Alinity out on her channel. That's ALINITY. You know, tell her Respecugnize sent you, follow if you like it, and sub if you love it even more. So continuing for the rest of the kit, we're going to look at our second weapon suite here, which is E. That will pop up this little menu to toggle, and you notice we have heal on left and damage on right, and so this is part of biotic orbs. So the right side, or alternate fire, will give you a damage orb. It does 50 damage per second, and it will damage the enemy heroes to a maximum of 200 hit points from whomever it's hitting. And on the left, you get 75 heal per second and a maximum of 300 heals for your allied heroes that it affects. When shot, the ball moves through the air at 20 meters per second, but once it starts affecting, and this is damage or healing, once it starts affecting and doing its thing, it's actually going to slow down to 5.5 meters per second to be effective. It is on a 10-second cooldown timer, and so this thing cannot be spammed. You do need to be careful and mindful about how you shoot it. Just so we can kind of look at the effects, we're going to go down here and shoot the damage ball.
My will made real.
And you notice there's a stream that comes out of there, and that has to deal with the damage. We'll look at some of the tech of that in the other video also, and how it works. But let's go ahead and round out our kit by looking at our ult, which is Coalescence. It is a channeled beam type, and it will do 70 hit points per second of damage with a 30-meter range, and it will heal at 140 hit points per second with that same range. And we're going to say it like that because the cool thing about Coalescence is that it actually damages and heals at the same time. So there is a half-second delay on cast of Coalescence. Be mindful of that. It does not come out immediately. It will allow you to move an additional 9 meters per second, so it is a slight speed buff, and it will last for 8 seconds. we'll just go ahead and pop that off. And so you see the beam comes out, and as long as you hold it over an enemy, or you're holding it over an allied hero, it will heal. So it's one of those ults where you're basically waiting for everyone to get together in a large clump, you know, kind of a furball on a point, a bunch of melee going on, people running around like chickens with their heads cut off. You can both heal and damage at the same time, so it's an important part of team composition. And of course we'll do a team composition video because that's a huge part of the game. So one last thing to go back over, the biotic here on primary and your damage beam, neither is going to headshot. I think we mentioned that, but going back to that variable on the refill, if you notice we're firing primary, it's going to drain out, and secondary is going to fill it back up. The actual numbers were already given to you, and of course I'm going to try to get you to watch the second video so we can go over more tech, and we'll look at the timing of all that. So if there's a patch, of course I will go back and do any changes to these videos, but if you guys catch a mistake I've made, especially in one of these videos where I'm trying to talk fast to keep it kind of short, just let me know. Send me a whisper, a tell, a message, email me, call me, and I will of course go back in and change that information so we can stay current. Of course you guys are going to have to be patient. Remember, I'm not the best player in the game. I'm just trying to get there.
Respecugnize game when I get on the move. Respecugnize game on Twitch and YouTube. Respecugnize, we the cool for the new and old school. I'ma show you how to do it when I do it so smooth. Respecugnize the truth, respecugnize the new online.